Hello, class. This is Mr. Moeller, and I've got a couple questions about just how the class works in general. So I thought I'd do a quick video, especially for those of you, this is your first online class. Let's just walk through a couple of things, make sure you know what my expectations are. So in general, just Blackboard is where like the basic information is. That's where your syllabus is. That's where the link to MyMathLab is. Um, I've got links to all the textbook videos and the PowerPoints in there. As I am creating my videos, those will be in the same spot. And I do all my announcements through Blackboard. All right, so Blackboard is general information. The MyMathLab is where you're going to be doing all your work. The fact that MathLab is linked to Blackboard, what that means for you is when you initially register, you have to go through Blackboard. At the time of me recording this video, a third of the class still has not done that. So those of you who have not, you're already starting a bit behind. You need to get that done. We'll talk a little bit about that in this video. And then the other thing for linking is the calendar is linked. So your due date should show up in Blackboard. The gradebook from MathLab is also linked, but I'll tell you for now, this is my first semester doing the linking between Blackboard and MyMathLab. So I currently don't trust the MathLab or the Blackboard gradebook. I'm not for sure that it's working as it is. So when you're looking for your grade, until I say otherwise, always go to MyMathLab. Your grade is always in MyMathLab. It's up to date. So go by that. Don't go by the Blackboard gradebook until I say. All right. So let's walk through some of this stuff in Blackboard. All right. So for those of you who have not got your Pearson account going yet, right here at the top of the page in Blackboard, there's that Access Pearson MyMathLab link. Click on that. And then for your first time, you need to create an account. If you're not going through Blackboard to get this, then it's not gonna work correctly. So make sure you're creating your account through when you're starting Blackboard. Now, when you do this, normal account creation, make sure to answer all those. Sometimes I see it asking for people's birthday. Make sure, I think it's like month and then dash year. Just create that. Once you create it, just hit create account. And I can't walk through the next page for you because I'm not an actual student. But what will happen is once you get your account created, it'll take you to the page where you can get your MathLab paid for or do the temporary access. In the middle of that page, that's where it'll ask for the access code. That's if you went to the bookstore to get your access code. On the right side, we'll be buying it directly from Pearson. Unless they change the prices, the bookstore is $142. Directly from Pearson is $94.99. So those are the two options there. You can buy it online just like you do any online with a credit card or anything like that. If you're doing the temporary access, that's free for 2 weeks. They kind of hit it a little bit. You have to go over here in the lower right. You may even have to scroll up the screen. Somewhere over here on the lower left. So somewhere on this left side, there'll be a sentence said something about temporary access. Click on that. That will get you, your temporary 2-week access. So it gives you 2 weeks to figure out how to get it paid for. Then, like I said, about 2/3 of the class has done that, so you're good. Everybody else needs to kind of get up to speed on that. I'll come back to MathLab in a bit. All right, so how do you conduct, what do you do for this class? Since this is a purely online class, we have no required meetings. There's a lot more burden on you as the student to keep up with everything. Okay, so if you haven't already, in that start here, which is the same as all your other classes, there's the syllabus. Make sure that you've read through the syllabus so you can kind of see how the grading works. There's a lot of expectations, that sort of stuff. So that's the simple syllabus. There's that one question enrollment quiz that you'll see in a lot of your other classes. That's just basically saying, did you read the syllabus? Right, so that way you're aware of the information that's there. If you're looking for tutoring, this is online tutoring you can make appointments with tutors. That's tutor.com. So that's a useful thing for that. They don't always they're not always able to explain like the more basic stuff, I think. And they're a lot more college algebra based, so you may have to search for tutors that do some of like the logic and sit through and do later. But that is, that tutor.com you basically paid for through with your tuition, so it's there. Right. All this other stuff in the start here, that's the same as in all your other classes. All right, so I'm not going to go any more than that. Okay. Um, the other thing is, so yeah, that module, unit 1, week 1, that's the instructions for those of you that haven't got into MATLAB yet. That'll walk you through it. For Zoom meetings, that first Wednesday, I held a couple optional Zoom meetings. Nobody showed up at one, but like 6 or 7 people logged into the 5 o'clock meeting. So, if I do any Zoom meetings, one, they're purely optional. You don't have to do them. And I'm only going to do them if there's interest. With the number of people that signed into the evening one, if those of you that, I'd be more than happy to like once a week do a Zoom meeting, either do office hours and answer address questions, do it as tutoring, or I could go over the topics for the week. It's really kind of up to the interest from y'all. So if any of you want, like a weekly meeting or something like that, just email me and I'll get it set up. All right. So since you're not attending lecture, what do you do? Okay. So for each one of these units, there's going to be study resources. Okay, we've got the learning objectives for Unit 1, which Unit 1 is basically our arithmetic and algebra review. Let's go through that. That'll show you what the first test is going to look like. Now, these lecture note outlines, these are what I'm using in my in-person classes, like day by day. This is what we're going over. And when I start making my videos, what I'll do is I'll have these, and I've got a document camera, and I'll be working a lot of these examples through. And that's mainly what my videos be based on, is I'll be using these lecture notes from in-person classes doing examples. Now, as I'm going through these examples, MATLAB is pretty good about skill practice. It's not so good at like the concepts. And so I will try to, as I'm going through this, emphasize like why we're doing stuff, like common mistakes. We'll make suggestions on being more efficient here or there, that sort of thing. So I will try to incorporate more of the why and let MATLAB do more of the what. So if you ever want to follow along in those videos and you want blank problems to work out, you have these in the lecture note outlines. I'm not going to do all these examples. I'm just going to hit the highlights. But that's what I'll be basing my videos on. Okay. Now I don't have, right, I'll have the link to all my videos right here as soon as I start getting them made. What's in there right now is I have a link to all the textbook videos that are appropriate to the content we're covering. And so, like for rounding, if you're a little rusty on that, and you want to review something before I get my video up, what it'll do is that'll take you, to all the videos that they have for that section. Okay, and they're usually like 5 to 8 minutes, and that walks you through the topics. So that's sort of, that's one way that you can replace the lecture that we're not going to have. And, with this and between this and my videos, you should have most of the information you need to work the problems. Yeah. Now, one thing I will say about the textbook videos and the textbook PowerPoints, they're not always done in the way that I approach it in class, which is why I need to do my own videos because I'm writing your test. But if you ever need to look at something, you have these videos that like I said, I've got them for every single section. So you'll have that there. And then if you're a PowerPoint source person, then I've also got the full PowerPoints that the book provided. And again, in these PowerPoints, they don't always necessarily do the same way that we're going to be testing in class, but that is an extra resource. So between my videos, the textbook videos, and the textbook PowerPoints, I would recommend, for some of this review stuff, you might be able to just jump into the homework and kind of figure it out as you go. If you know there's a topic that you're rusty on, I would definitely recommend getting in here and either watching my videos or the textbook videos, to get that lecture beforehand. My videos are probably going to be somewhere between 30 minutes to an hour. So like I said, I'm kind of simulating what we're doing in class. I will make sure to do timestamps on them so that you can find which topic is which, so that way you don't have to watch the whole video if you're only looking for a specific topic. But that's what you're doing in general for this online class is you're using this information to replace what you're not getting in the lecture since it's an online class. Now, how much you're supposed to do each week? So if you look at that proposed weekly schedule, this schedule came from my Monday, Wednesday, Friday in-person class. All right, so this is what, next week. On Monday, we're doing fractions. On Wednesday, we're finishing up fractions, looking at integers, negative numbers. And then Friday, we're doing order of operations. All right, so the reason I give this to you is this will show you, like, if you want to space your work out week by week, this is what the in-person class is doing. So that's a decent schedule for you to follow so that you're ready for the test by September 12th. And as I mentioned multiple places, I am flexible with due dates on the homework and the quizzes. In general, you should plan to do like 2 to 3 homeworks per week, and there's always going to be an associated quiz with those homeworks. So if you stay on this pace, then you're going to be ready for the exam. Now, these are not the due dates of your homework. That's in MathLab, and I'll show you that in a second. But this is, like, if you want to know what the in-person class is doing this week, you can come here and see, and then that's what you need to be watching those videos on for that week. Let's get into MathLab. So you're only going to have one class, but one thing I will point out, if you're doing the temporary access, then in that box, there'll be a pink or flesh colors, something like that, that gives you a countdown of how many days you have left on your temporary access. When you're ready to pay for it, either because you've bought the access code from the bookstore or you're ready to pay for it online, click on that box. It will take you right to where you need to go to pay for it. To get in the class, you just click on the class name. Let's see. I'm currently in one of my in-person classes. It doesn't matter. It all works the same. So what you're going to see is there's going to be a calendar. So like for the week, that's what those blue circles are homeworks. The orange squares are quizzes. All right. So like I said, you're going to have 2 to 3 homeworks per week and an associated quiz. You can get to the due dates down here. What I do though is I just go to that student assignments. That's the button I click on the most. And then over here on the left side is your due dates, for everything. At the moment, yeah, I've got the whole course open. So don't get in there and get overwhelmed thinking there's that many assignments for test one. Test one only goes up through 6.3. Once you see that mini review, full review, that's where test one will show up right after that. And so in general, with due dates, particularly for online class, I am flexible, but the due dates are there just to try to keep you on track week by week. Like I said, I know a lot of students in online classes tend to do their classwork on the weekends. And so you're going to be a little bit behind, maybe for a few days, but as long as you're caught up for the week, and I will be posting weekly to-do list, then you're where you need to be. When you're in the homework, you don't have the help aids for the quizzes, but when you're in the homework, don't forget that every single homework is going to have you an example that you can look at. They have a textbook link. So this is R2.3, number 63. So if you click on the textbook, that will take you directly to that review chapter 2, section 3. And so then you can find more examples, you can find your definitions. A lot of students use this more for the definition style questions because the textbook is a good place for definitions. But it's also got other examples as well. Sometimes you'll see links to videos in here as well. The main thing is the view and example, the textbook, and then my favorite part is that Ask My Instructor. What that Ask My Instructor does is that sends me a link directly to your problem so I can see the numbers you're working on. If you've got an answer entered in, a lot of times I can work backwards and figure out what's happening. But it really helps me to help you if you ask a specific question. If you can tell me kind of like what part of it's giving you a problem, then I can answer back directly. See what else on that view example. A lot of times the first few assignments, it's not so much about the math, it's getting the answer entered correctly. One of the nice things about that view and example, it goes through kind of step by step. Sometimes it does skip the step you need. But most of the time these examples are helpful. If you think you have the right answer, but you're entering it wrong, go to the example, look at their answer. Your answer should match the format of their answer. The other thing I will say about the view example, don't get addicted to it. I've seen so many students over the years that before they even try the problem, they'll just automatically view the example and kind of cookbook it. That helps you get your homework done, but then you're not really learning. So please try to see if you can do that without the help aids before you start looking at the examples. And then when you click on the answer box, if you need any special keys, it'll pop up down here. Like there's my regular fraction, there's my mixed number, so you have all that stuff available. As soon as you hit check answer, you're submitting your work to me. And the way this works is you get 3 examples or 3 attempts. Hit check answer. I got it wrong. It pops up telling me kind of like the common mistake. I'm going to do it again. Get it wrong a second time. This third time it goes to final check. Once I miss it the third time, then I've now officially missed it. So I got 0 points out of that. But if you notice, it says similar question. And so if you do similar question, it gives you the same exact problem, but now different numbers. So there's a random number generator. Everybody gets different numbers, but the same question. And now if I get it correct, then I will get full credit for the problem. So don't forget about the view example. Don't forget about the similar exercise. Typically when somebody has a homework grade of like below 90%, that tells me either they're not doing all the homework or they're forgetting about that similar question. And then we go back. And so, when do you do that first quiz? You got homework 1, homework 2, quiz 1. So as soon as you finish that fraction quiz or fraction homework, do the quiz. So on the quizzes, the difference between the quizzes and the homework, the quizzes are there to help you prep for the test. All right, so in the homework, you get multiple attempts, you get all the examples. If you notice, there are no examples, there's no help aids down here because in the test, there's not any help aids. Right, so this is the transition from the homework to the exams because they're different skills that we assess them in different ways. It's the same math skill, but it gets assessed differently. All right, and so the quizzes are there for your test prep. You get to take them multiple times. I always take the highest grade. And so what you need to do, at least one of these quizzes, is take the quiz just like you're taking a test. Don't ask for help, don't look for examples, don't look up anything, take it just like you're taking a test. That will tell you what whatever you miss, you need to figure that out before the test. Because the way I make the test is first thing I do is pull up all the old quizzes and take questions from the quizzes. 80 to 90% of every test comes directly from these quizzes. Then I have to fill in a few more problems here and there from the homework to kind of get, round out the topics. But these quizzes are your test prep, right? And so what you do this is, you would answer a question, go to the next one. And so once you're done, then up here in the upper right, you hit submit. Yes, I know I'm not done. Okay. And then that'll give you your quiz grade. If you want to take the quiz again, then you got 10 attempts on these quizzes. But if you figure out why you're missing it, what you missed and why, go back and review it, and then come take the quiz again. If you just take the quiz again without reviewing anything, then you're really not going to change your score. The other part that you need for this class, here's where your grade book is. Over here on the left, you got the student grade book. If you open it up and you don't see this little circle right here in front of overall score, click on that. That tells you where your grade is. This is your official math lab grade. Now it's going to be highly flexible until test one. And then after test one's going to dominate the grade for a while until we get to test two. But this is where your grade is. If anybody needs grade checks, this is what I'm looking at. You look at the past 2 weeks. You can look at the entire course to date. So this, if you want to review a quiz before you retake it, that's where you'd get to it. Come to the grade book, here, get your quiz, hit review. That'll walk you through what the quiz was. All right. So like I said, by the time the test comes, if you're using the quizzes properly, then the test should feel like a review. There are review quizzes. I'll talk more about those as we get closer to the exam. But that's basically what you're doing this semester. You're going to start in Blackboard. Get back to that. So for Unit 1 resources, you have textbook videos. You're going to have my videos as I get those put in there. Those are the lecture part of the course. You're always welcome to go elsewhere for topics. But the one advantage of my lecture note or lecture videos, once I get them in there, is that I'm also the person writing your tests. So my lectures will be geared towards your test. But that's kind of the overview of the course and what you need to be doing. And so week by week, make sure that you're keeping up with your due dates and that you're ready for the test. And I'll be sending out weekly to-do lists. I'll be sending out here in a week or two. We're going to be doing an honor lock practice test to make sure that everybody can use honor lock properly. Because if you can't, we need to know ahead of time so we can get you on campus to take the test. Things like that. But just keep up on your work, your daily work. Make sure to read the announcements. If you have any questions, ask me. Because I can't help you if I don't know that you need help. All right, good luck and have a good day.